A different filter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Is this on Zoom for? Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get started. All right, thank you everybody for coming out. I'm Jared Johnson. I knew there was a select board election coming up, and we have 3 candidates, 2 of which are going to be write-ins, or no, 2 of which are open positions, and then 1 person on the ballot, which means at least 1 person is going to have to be written in. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to have people come out and meet and talk to the people before you actually have to write their names on the ballot this year. So the way this will work is I'll let everybody have a couple minutes just introduce themselves, give their pitch, and then we'll ask questions one at a time. We'll rotate through who goes first. I've got some questions that were submitted online. We'll start with those. That way that'll help prevent some duplication, so redundancy. And then we'll open up to the floor. I'll keep an eye on Zoom. I don't see anybody on there right now, but in case anybody shows up and has questions to chat, I will keep an eye on that.
You are recording?
We are recording. I'll try and get this available as soon as I can on YouTube and share that. I'll share it on the Friends and Family Facebook page. And Rodney else will try to send it out on Monday if it's available. Bowdoinham newsletter, which
Yes.
if you're not subscribed, it's a great resource. So just a couple of, we'll keep this low key, keep it simple, just ask that questions are on topic, ask that everybody stay civil. We're all part of the community, we all just want what's best. So I just want to keep things calm, civil. Looking at this crowd, I think we're all pretty civil people, and I'm not too worried about things getting out of hand. So with that, we will open up the candidates and we'll just go left to right, and we'll start with Alan.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. I am absolutely thrilled with folks here in the audience. People signing in, that's great. My name is Alan Acker. I am currently a select board member here in Bowdoinham, finishing my first term. I am a lifelong resident of town. I was born and raised here. I'm a 3rd generation Bowdoinhammer. Grew up with both of my grandparents here in town. Basically lived with them part-time while my parents both worked 2 jobs as a latchkey kid, as a Gen Xer that I am. I served on nuclear submarines in the Navy as a mess management specialist, which is a fancy term for a chef. I then worked in food service, hospitality for several years, and then wholesale food service sales and distribution. So I was like the grocery store for restaurants, covering a large portion of mid-coast and southern Maine. Handled Bowdoin College, for example, was a primary account of mine that I was responsible for. I've lived back in town since 2015. My wife and I bought our first starter home in Gardner when we were young and just married. I have 3 wonderful children, a daughter about to be 18 next week, which I can't even believe. Another daughter, 16 and 14. Yeah, right, isn't that insane? Annette and Dave here are basically my second parents as well. I grew up next door to them and have known them since I was 6 years old. I thoroughly enjoy the position of being on the select board. I cherish the form of government that we have in this town. I do believe that it is the purest form of democracy still practiced in our country today. And I encourage more participation as best we possibly can. I think once people kind of get to understand it, they understand why it's so valuable. So thank you.
Thank you. Marc.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Marc Babcock. I am originally from Bruce Bay Harbor, Maine. My father is very active down there. I joined the Marine Corps in 1999, met my beautiful wife. We retired both in 2014. She won the coin toss when we retired. We first moved to Oregon. And then we moved here to Bowdoinham in 2021. I've been when we lived in Southern California, I was an active member in our HOA. I became the HOA president. Because people of our HOA, the voices weren't being projected to the HOA board, and I wanted to make sure that their voice was heard. I, on a daily, for my own job, manage budgets and make sure that things that are clearly inputted correctly and that financials are clean and crisp. So I'm just want to make sure that the people of Bowdoinham will have a voice that they can rely on when it comes to the select board.
All right, thank you, Mark. And Shelley?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Shelley Hooper. I'm a Mainer born in Western Maine, and I was an Army brat. Grew up in the Farmington area. I left the state for several years. I've worked in a lot of different occupations. I've rattled them off in the Bowdoinhammer, so thank you for giving me a chance to state my resume there, so I don't want to get into too much detail about that. Needless to say, I've been an organic farmer. I've worked in the performance arts industry, and I'm currently an educator in the area, but not at Bowdoinham School, which is an amazing school. I've been in this town, which is an amazing town, and it's my forever home, since 2021. Maybe 22. It was flexible. I've kind of partly moved in and then completely committed. I would very much like to continue service to the community that I've always had going on, no matter what community I've been in. I've been an EMT. I used to work on the EMS board. I've also worked in different capacities within the education business, within retail, restaurants. I typically am the kind of person that likes to keep things running smoothly, go through the channels that need to get gone through. I like to get things done. I like to also find consensus, find common ground, get people that aren't used to talking to each other, talking to each other. And I've been privileged to sit in at a few select board meetings and realize how important it is to keep that kind of thing going within this community. They do a great job. I'd love to be part of that. I want the kind of person that wants to get involved and be the change I want to see.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
So we'll start with the question that came in online. First one, Lily. So as a local business leader and citizen, it's very important to me to have excellent schools. Also, please note state funding for schools and state revenue sharing are based on town's valuation. So towns with higher property values are expected to pay more. This means Bowdoinham's efforts to promote itself as a great place to live can indirectly cause tax hikes. If elected, will you attack our schools or support them? And we'll start off with Mark on this one.
So I support our schools. One of the many reasons we moved to Bowdoinham was the school district. That was one of the reasons why we left Oregon during 2021. We did a lot of research before choosing a place of residency when we moved. And I can tell you that the school here in Bowdoinham, grade 3 is when my son started. It was a totally different change from when he was attending school in Oregon. I have a few friends that work for the school. He is currently down at Mount Ariat now, but our school system is phenomenal and I promote it every day.
Okay, great. Shelley?
Well, I work in the district, so I'm going to put aside any bias I might have and answer straightforwardly that I'm very much in support of schools, but I'm also very much in support of community and taxable. The tax-paying citizens. It's very important that they get bang for their buck. It's very important that they don't get mired in decisions that they don't have a voice in. So I'm very interested in bridging gaps that as they appear between what's happening with town and taxation and what's happening with the school board and the district as a whole. Bowdoinham has a very unique, beautiful, wonderful school and program. The building is old. I know that's a hot topic for everybody. What goes on with how much more money are we putting into it? Are they going to make this go away? The school, I'm very passionate about seeing that school being in this town. It is just such an absolute fundamental, integral part of this community. So I'm 100% in support of schools in the district.
All right. You, Alan?
Everything that person who wrote that question said is exactly true. It's a horrible catch-22. However, I would much rather live in a place with a great school system than maybe have a little bit lower taxes. All three of my kids went through the community school, as did I. In fact, when my daughter started in first grade at the community school when we moved back from Gardner, she had the same librarian and same art teacher that I had when I was in sixth grade when I left. And I graduated high school in 1994. I graduated from Mount Airy in 1994. When Mount Airy was a 7 through 12 building at that time, there was no middle school. It was, you went to elementary school up until sixth grade here in town. And then as a 12 or 13-year-old, you rode the bus with bearded 19-year-old seniors, Mount Airy. And I'm thankful we have a middle school now, because that was a torturous time as a seventh and eighth grader riding a long bus ride with ninth through 12th graders. So 1,000%. Our in particular school, I can't speak to the other elementary schools in our district. I absolutely know how fantastic ours is. Chris does an amazing job. I still am close with many of the teachers there from when my kids went to school there. There's no way. I know that we've all been proposed with the recent capital improvements survey about possible consolidation or this or that, or our buildings at its 50-year end of life. Well, and this may sound, maybe a bit populist of me, and if so, I do apologize, but there's a lot of buildings in this town that are way more than 50 years old, and they were built by the same kind of people using the same kind of dimensional lumber that 50-year-old section of Bowdoinham Community School was built by. It wasn't built using some engineered drawing plans with 2x4s from Grossman's Lumber. It was constructed, and I believe this to be true, in a way that it was built to last more than 50 years. So yes, an engineering firm may come in and say, this building has a lifespan of 50 years, and I'm sure that they are correct in a lot of situations and circumstances. I personally don't feel that the building is at its end of lifespan. So I am not for any sort of removing our community school from this community in any way, shape, or form. It is the one district, it is the school in the district that has community in its name. It is our community school. So I am not interested in that prospect whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what's your vision for the town of Bowdoinham, and what resources should the town be providing to the 3,000 residents? And I'll start with Shelley.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I love this town. I was just literally talking about this an hour ago. The last thing I ever want to see is a Dunkin' Donuts when I pull off 37 Rand. Absolutely not. I think this town is amazing. I see its future relying on people keeping this town the way it is, fighting for what it is. It is special. It is a jewel. I mean, as we see everything getting bigger, more commercial, more built up, this town has stood its ground. It is commendable that I don't see a Cumberland Farms anywhere. It is commendable that when I go to a community activity, how many people turn out to those activities. It's what brought me here. That's why I live here. I could get more bells and whistles that the people south of here seem to like if I lived in a different community. I have no desire to see that happen. I would really like to help you folks maintain this beautiful town that you have created and maintained here.
All right, thank you. Alan.
Well, thank you, Shelley. I agree with Shelley on quite a bit of that, frankly. We have a land use ordinance in place, which is the most powerful document in our town. For those who don't know, that kind of determines our zoning and what you can build where and what setbacks. And it is by far the most powerful document in our town. And it was written at a time when the towns around us were blowing up, when Topsom was still farmland, but a mall was about to be built. And it was written by folks in a way to not let that happen to Bowdoinham. We have seen growth in Bowdoinham. I like to call it very organic growth in Bowdoinham. We haven't seen massive developments that put a strain on services that we can't provide. Yet we continue to see new homes being built at a slow and a pace where they're not all McMansions. There's smaller, more affordable houses being built. Would I love for there be a lot more pieces of the pie to divide our tax bill up against? I would. However, when you bring more pieces of the pie, it costs a lot more. It costs a lot more in services as well. I'm a firm believer that our property tax bill is not just the value of our property, but also the quality of life which our community sustains itself in. And as Shelley said, we've been able to maintain our uniqueness throughout the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and we've maintained that, but yet still had growth. We're the only town in the county that outpaces births over deaths, even though more than 60% of our population is over the age of 60. We still outpace births over deaths. Our community school is the only school in the district that is continually growing and adding students and not taking away. That means we are a desirable place to live. We've done something right. And I kind of, as Shelley said, the proof is in the pudding. We've created a freaking awesome community here. And, with that, comes some challenges, but it also, I'm afraid that if we start to have too much growth too fast, then that desirability factor starts to fall. And that's not an equitable scale of justice, in my opinion.
All right, thank you. Marc?
I agree with all that as well. One of the things that drove us to Bowdoinham was the small town that when you think of Maine, that's what Bowdoinham is. Growing up in Boothbay Harbor in the 80s and 90s, my parents had no idea where I was half the time because I was out on a bicycle riding around. I like that. My son has that same capability. Obviously, I can look on my iPhone and see exactly where he is. But I like small community. I like our farms around here. One of the things that we do a lot is participate and buy products and produce from our farms because I work out twice a day. I like to know what's going in my body. We have amazing farms that produce that for us. I'm bursting on the inside for the future of our store. I don't like going to Topsom or Richmond to grab something quick or easy. I like to be able to go right down the road and provide somebody that's in my town my own money so that they can grow their business and their family. I think our waterfront could be used a little bit more to attract some tourism per se. We have a great river for paddling. Many of us in our community use it already. We could use that to, attract a little tourism, but that tourism is going to bring money into our town to be used in our stores, in our Three Robbers, and into, everything that we provide, Apple Creek. I think we should keep that small town vibe with the infrastructure that we have and build on it slowly. I'm like as Shelley said, I'm glad I don't pull off of any of our exits and see a bright yellow double arch anywhere. I don't like that. Or a subway or anything like that. I think we should, with our land use ordinance, I think we should definitely keep the way Bowdoinham is now for the future, because there's not going to be many towns coming from Boothbay Harbor. I can tell you Boothbay Harbor is no longer Boothbay Harbor. It's not the small town feel, and it's driving people out of there. And I don't want to see anybody from this town driven out because of corporations or too many houses going in too quick. And now the school can't survive because of that, or our little store, when it does open, it gets overwhelmed, or, our fire department has too much on their plate for that aspect. We need to support ourselves with the growth within ourselves.
All right, thank you. The next question. With the town's current debt, will you hold yourselves accountable and employees responsible accountable? And we'll start this one with Alan.
So I gotta answer that carefully as a sitting select board member. So yes, I mean, our debt service is a very large line item of our budget. My very first year on the select board, 3 years ago, as a board led by Tony Lewis at the time, we came to a unanimous decision that moving forward, we were not going to take out bonds for paving maintenance projects for the town. Previously, with very low interest rates, and in order to keep mill rates specifically lower, if at all possible, the town manager had chose to bond out what should have been just preventative paving maintenance. That several of those, along with our new public works building several years ago, is why we kind of got to the debt level that we were at. So the first thing we did was that we started budgeting $350,000 a year in public works reserves to pay for that year's. That's the estimated what we need to pay. Sorry, this may be. We have 30 miles of paved road in Bowdoinham that the town's responsible for maintaining. Optimally, you do preventative maintenance on 10 miles each year, and then you're back again. We were taking out bonds where we were doing projects on a section of road, and before that bond was paid off, it was due for more maintenance again. So we were basically underwater in our bond for road maintenance. That's why we chose not to bond out. So $350,000 a year was then added to our municipal budget. And this is the year that our municipal budget went from 1.1 million to 2.1 million in one year. We doubled I will stand here and openly and honestly throw tomatoes. We had to double the budget. 350,000 of that $1 million was so that we were paying for our road maintenance with cash funds up front and not taking out loans to pay for it, which we as a board unanimously felt that was far more fiscally prudent in the long run than taking out bonds. Secondly, the same year was the year that our ambulance service tried to abandon us in the middle of the year, and our ambulance service that year went from $50,000 to $185,000 the next year. So out of that $1 million, almost 700,000 of it was just in those two line items, the 350,000 for road maintenance and the new ambulance cost. And then the rest of it was because we also determined unanimously as a board at that time that we needed to pay our staff median rates in the area. We were constantly rifling through staff in the office because we would get them in, we would get them trained on how to do the state registry of vehicles, give hunting and fishing licenses and all that sort of training that they have to go through. And then another job would pop open in a town around us that paid considerably more money, and they were gone. That town didn't have to pay to train them because we already did it. And then we're stuck without an employee and we had to pay to train them again and then hope that they didn't jump ship and go to another town as soon as they got trained and they could get the job for considerably more money. So that was the process. We did hourly workers the first year, and then the second year we did department heads to bring the median. And I would say the proof is in the pudding in that, because we haven't had any turnover in office staff or department heads since we made those changes. So I guess then as far as holding account, as a select board member, you're not allowed to direct employees directly. You have to direct through the town manager and then hold the town manager responsible for holding the employees accountable. It is against the law for me to ask a town employee to go do something directly, or so holding them employees directly accountable, I don't really feel that that's kind of in our scope, but holding the town manager accountable, certainly.
All right, thank you.
Sorry for that. That was a long answer, you guys. I apologize.
There's a lot of stuff there, so it's.
I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, Mark.
I mean, that's kind of the hard question. I think he kind of answered it for, I mean, a lot of it, obviously, we're not allowed to direct town employees. We have to hold the, like he said, to the town manager. One of the issues I see though is we constantly use the same contractors. Let's get bids. Somebody else out there might want what we want in our town at a different cost, or maybe more of a warranty on that or something. And I think we need to only spend what we earn per se. Overspending is one of the hugest topics in the state of Maine when it comes to towns right now. It's across the board. It's a fire maelstrom. The bonds on the roads that should not happen again. I really hope so. I really hope it doesn't come to that. I think certain projects here and there we need to readdress and look at. Does it need to be done this year? What's more important? I think the huge thing though is going through the financials and digging into our financials and what is needed and what is not. Our community services definitely needed. Our fire station, our fire crew definitely needed. Ambulance services definitely needed. Saginaw County definitely needed. But putting money into certain other projects that could be put off maybe a year, or maybe we find somebody else that can do a better job at a cheaper price or provide a more of a warranty. I know that, you know, some of the roads I've driven on just to see when they are paved, they're already starting to crack. What's that going to look like when the first frost heave hits? What's that going to look like when our town plow goes right over that? I'm kind of worried on some of our paving projects that we have done in the last year. The water main up by the fire station. We've spent a lot of money in our town to have that fixed multiple times this year.
That's not actually, that's only paid by people who are part of the water district. The rest of the town does not. That's an individual, just so you know, like that's not spread amongst everybody. That only gets paid for by people who are part of the water district.
But it's broken many a times for a certain reason. What's the reason for that, I should say? And can that be avoided? Or is it just a ticking time bomb going to happen again?
I'm sorry, it is.
So
it is.
we need to dig into our town's financials and look at what is needed. It's like going to an auto dealership and getting a multi-point inspection for your car. Green, yellow, red. What's good? What can we maintain right now? What do we need to allot for the future? And what is needed right at this time? And I think we should do that with our budget, because I think some of us, you know, this right now all got taxes in the last few weeks or in the last month, and we looked at that bill and went, wow, it's grown since 2021. It's grown a lot. I can tell you that it has grown a lot, and I know a lot of people are worried. My neighbors have been worried, so I think we just, as a select board, we need to hold the town manager accountable to make sure our town is what we want it for our future of our children.
All right, thank you. Shelley.
I've heard a lot of ground covered, so I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I think it is imperative that there be transparency and accountability. I absolutely would be interested in seeing that go forward, and to do so, people like me need to pop up out of nowhere and get involved. I went to go get involved, found out that there were 2 open select board seats, and it was too late to be on the ballot, so I decided to be a writing candidate. That's why I'm sitting here before you. I think I am not the only person in the world that's sitting there going, gee, I love this town. How can I help this town out more? What kind of time do I have to spare? There are many committees to get on, as I'm sure both of them are aware of as well, where you could go, okay, this is in my wheelhouse. Maybe I can help out with this and show up once a month and get your voice heard and hear your neighbors and speak for them as well and communicate back to everybody what actually goes on in this room. I think it's super important to do that, and I'm all for it.
Next question. What are one short-term issue and one long-range issue I'd like to see the select board address? And so I'll start with Mark.
I think the short-term issue is definitely going to be how the town is spending our money. We don't, I mean, if you look at your taxes, a huge portion of it doesn't even go to the town. And I know for a fact that the town hasn't changed its personal budget within the town for a few years. Alan?
2 years since that ginormous increase that I previously mentioned. Yes, we have not had an increase.
So that being said, those huge chunks of our tax bills aren't being spent only in Bowdoinham. They are going elsewhere. I think we need a voice in Bowdoinham that asks more questions when we're sending vast amount of money to the state and to the school to see how that is being allotted. I think a long-term issue is how our seniors are treated in this town. Do they have enough support? Does your neighbor right across from you have enough oil, have enough heat, have enough firewood? Did they get a thing of firewood dumped in their driveway? And is it just sitting there collecting rain? I think more people in this town need to help each other. That's my personal view. I check on my neighbor. I know her son lives right down the road, but I make sure that her light turns on every night. She makes sure my son gets off the bus at the same time every day. And I'm greatly appreciative of that. And I think that in order for our town to survive, we need to take care of each other. And I think that is going to be a long-term issue until none of us in this room are here anymore, and it continues with the children that we have, and to keep this town the way it is.
Thank you. Shelley.
All right, short term, I would like to see ongoing conversations about the taxation, why the rate's going up as fast as it is, and how that money is going to be spent in the budgets that are about to start getting drafted. Can't do anything about the past, but I'm very interested in what the future looks like. Leading to that, long term, I would love to see the already high priority of making sure that the use of our land is responsible, sustainable, and healthy for everybody that lives here continue. And so I would like to continue seeing how public land is being used and appropriated in the town, possibly looking towards appropriating more land for public use as opposed to letting it get sold off to developers and seeing what that looks like. I'm very interested in that as a long-term focus.
Ellen.
Okay, short term. Well, we have some pretty major repairs at our public works building that need to be taken care of, that are in the process now. That's created quite a bit of a setback for us as a town. We also have several legal matters that we're dealing with as a town that have been drawn out over several years as well, involving all sorts of stuff. So those are, we really need to get those wrapped up. Those really end up taking a lot of our time, and we are we're kind of close to seeing the end of the tunnel there on those. In the long term, I am come to the conclusion personally that we need to set a policy of a full reevaluation every 7 years. When I became a select board member 3 years ago, and still to this day, no one here can tell me when we had a last full reevaluation by an assessor in the town of Bowdoinham. So for years, what's been happening when we haven't met the state's percentage of valuation that we need to be at, meaning our property valuations are slacking, the select board has been then, which it's allowed to do by law, and at the advice of our auditor comes to next meeting, I believe. We are audited every year by a licensed auditor for financial overview. So if anybody's going to catch any misappropriations of funds or anything like that, that's the guy that's going to catch it. Certainly not me. I will be the first to admit that. We have a extensive audit done every single year on all of our expenditures and accounts. So that's the guy that's gonna catch those. But part of the problem why our taxes are going up so rapidly is due to a lot of things that are out of our control. So I think our budget is 2.17 million, maybe 2. I mean, rough figures right here. So if we were to say cut 10% of our budget, which is a huge number on a $2.2 million budget, right? It's $220,000. That wouldn't even be half of what our increase is, just our increase this year to the school budget. So we would be cutting $220,000 in services from our community, and it wouldn't even offset this year's increase in the school budget. Again, it doesn't make sense. The return on investment isn't there. I would much rather see that $220,000 isn't going to do anything, and then who knows what next. That's just the increase of going from $4.2 million last year to sad 75 to $4.6 million this year to our tabulation. I don't feel it makes any sense to cut substantial services from people that doesn't even offset the school budget increase. So it's not going to make really any difference in anybody's tax bill. It's going to be the same, except you're going to be without a lot less services. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, if people want to cut stuff just for the sake of cutting stuff, I mean, that's what town meeting is for. And if you show up with the right amount of people that want to cut stuff, and you have the numbers, you can cut anything from the budget you want. You can't add anything to the budget, but you can feel free to cut. I personally don't think making the community suffer just to kind of be a martyr of taxation makes sense. So.
All right, thank you. I am trying to keep an eye on the time. We do have a couple more written ones before we go to the audience. So this has been great discussions. But I will lastly try and move through these a little bit quicker. Again, very substantive discussions. I'm not criticizing anybody. Nobody's filibustering here.
I have all the time in the world.
In your opinion, should the town continue to maintain the short section of Pratt Road that is set up for a vote on Tuesday? I'll start with.
How did I know this was coming?
Shelley, start with
I
you.
would give you the shortest word I can think of, yes.
Okay. Alan?
No, I don't. And the reasoning is that it just sets us up for anybody who lives on either a private or discontinued road to expect that the town maintain their road if they get enough people to come and ask. I know that sounds harsh. You know, one of the things I'm most proud about is arguing in defense of the landowners on the other end of the Dingley Road that wasn't legally discontinued. However, this section of road that these folks live on has been and still is legally discontinued and has been since 1978. It was privately maintained for several years. And then people went to the town and asked the town manager if he would maintain it. And the town manager and the select board chair at that time agreed to maintain it. However, state statute is very specific, and it says if you're going to use town labor and equipment on non-town owned property, it must be approved by the legislative body, which is why we put the question up to town meeting in June. We were required by law to put that question on because the town legislative body of the citizens of the town meeting, they are by law obligated to approve any use of town equipment or funds. So for a long time, the town had been maintaining that section of road for the town, for the property owners. However, we had been doing so without voter approval, which is required by state statute. So.
Thank you. Mark?
So when this first came up, I went and drove it all the way to the very end. I think, and this is just my personal thing, I think we should do a reevaluation of why that discontinuation is still in effect. I think was it 7 or 5 or 7 houses from that section down. They all pay taxes just like everybody in this room does. Part of those taxes go to our town road maintenance. Maybe not paving it right away, but winter maintenance is. I can see at that end of the road, if you do not have a 4-wheel drive vehicle in the dead of winter and that is not plowed, that is going to be a huge issue. And it would be a huge issue to get anybody out of there in an emergency. So I am all for making sure that this year, obviously it's a vote, but I think we should continue services this year and then look into why it's been discontinued for so long and should it be taken out of the discontinued status, because looking into state law, that can happen.
And that is the difference between the question on Tuesday's ballot versus the question that was put before town meeting. At town meeting, it was kind of in perpetuity. There was no just for the 25-26 winter season. So when we changed it, so when we added the question to the warrant for this year, in trying to make it more specific and maybe more palatable to the legislative body, we added that it would be only for just this one winter. And the reason for that was, as a board, we would then look at, do we then try to make that part of public road again? And undertake that, but that's obviously a longer legal process that we couldn't do before winter.
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah. This next one is a big one, but I think we've already touched on a lot of it. So again, in the interest, try to keep this as succinct as possible, given that it's a big question. What steps would you take to lower the tax rate for the town of Bowdoinham? And start with Alan.
I would be a liar if I said there were any steps I could take. I'm sorry that there are, as a select board member, our control of the town budget, the fact that the school budget makes up and the county budget combined make up such a large portion, there is nothing we could do. As stated before, I mean, we could cut our budget in half, 50%, and it would lower our taxes for 1 year, but it wouldn't lower them the next year when the school budget increased again. The way we were going to lower property taxes in the state of Maine is to have the Department of Education's EPS funding system overhauled and start with a more logical number for our school districts to start from. Because the number that they provide and then choose to pay 55% of is currently just unreasonable. There's no way our school district could run on the EPS number provided, and nor would any of us want to be part of a district run on that number. And that is the driving factor in everyone's property tax increases. It's not municipal spending. It's not new houses being built. It is that number alone. And I firmly stand by that. And again, I wish I could lower taxes. I don't like paying them. I struggle to pay my property tax bill. It's not easy for me to pay either. But I can't in good conscience sit here and tell anyone that I have the power or the ability to lower their property tax bill, because I don't.
All right, thank you. Mark?
So that's a really tough question, knowing for 2 years that what our taxes go to in the town of Bowdoinham hasn't changed. So that means the money that the town of Bowdoinham spends out of our tax bill is exactly, been the same amount. But our outside entities, Saginaw County and the school board, have gone up. So as a town, I think we need to make more of a voice to those two entities. And, our state legislative, our county legislative, the county finance committee, the school finance committee, we need to have more of a voice in those committees. And when they're choosing how to spend our money. It's not fair. I mean, it's not fair to a lot of people that don't have children. Not saying that that's how it should go, but I mean, a lot of people that don't have children, a lot of their money goes to school. We rely on the county for certain things, obviously. Saginaw County Sheriff, we rely on a lot, and they're a great aspect of our community. It's always comforting to see one of them when our children are out and about to and from school. It's good to see them whenever we need them. I mean, it's good to see a presence with them in our town. And I just think we need to have more of a voice in the outside entities of Bowdoinham that are using our money to make sure our money is well spent. Because maybe there is something that we can't see here in Bowdoinham, but it's not being used correctly elsewhere. And then if we got that to light, then that would potentially lower our taxes.
All right, thank you. Shelley?
Yes, I'll be happy to keep things brief. I like it brief. There are two ways that towns get money. One is from our residents and one is from businesses. What Bowdoinham doesn't have a lot of is businesses. I would love to see an increase in sole proprietorships, family-owned businesses. Businesses that are not going to change the landscape of this town, but are going to start keeping money in this town that's getting spent. How many of us do most of our business as far as running our households, shopping, entertainment outside this town? Basically everybody. So how can we fix that? We can start increasing the number of people that have businesses in their own homes, as opposed to relying on a commercial business center or anything like that, which none of us want, right? So the Bowdoinham Country Store finally being up and hopefully running soon is a step in the right direction. I'd like to see more of that. I think that's going to put money back into this town.
All right, thank you. In the interest of time, these next two questions are related, so I'm going to combine them. With a town of 3,000 residents, what positions should be cut to get a reasonable tax base for the town? And is it feasible for the town of Bowdoinham to have so many full-time positions that some may argue aren't needed for a small bedroom community? That's a typo. Full-time recreation director, full-time fire chief, or full-time public works employees. And then we'll start that with Marc.
I think our town is poised correctly when it comes down to full-time employees, because without full-time employees, you can't rely on something being taken care of in an emergency. I know when Public Works is out and about in the wintertime, we all praise them, because those flashing lights in the middle of the night and ensuring that when some of us go to work at 0 dark 30, the road's plowed every single time. Our fire chief, I know he has been at my residence twice. And that's because we have a weird draft on where I live on my road, and my neighbor's chimney likes to go down my chimney when our money is not open. So I'm appreciative of full-time employees in this town. It's comforting to walk into our town office when I need my vehicle registered. It's comforting to know that I can get my dog license, which is coming up, everybody. It's good to know when I call Bowdoinham town office that somebody picks up. I have friends that live in Bowdoin, and it's like you spin a wheel and hopefully it's Wednesday and the sky is blue and somebody's at the town office. I don't think we need that in Bowdoinham. I think I think our structure for full-time town employees is set just right, and I don't think we should have to sacrifice any of those employees because it's not gonna make a difference in our taxes whatsoever. It's gonna be $10 a year, maybe 20. So I don't think that's an avenue to reduce taxes at all.
All right, thank you, Shelley.
I don't ever believe in saving pennies like that because you spend pounds later when you have problems. Those are positions that are mentioned are key positions. You want a professional on it for accountability reasons and for expertise. You don't want to mess around with those positions. I've seen it happen as part-time positions, volunteer positions, stipend positions in smaller towns that I've been involved in, and no good really comes of it. You end up spending more in the long run.
All right, thank you, Alan.
I think I pretty much answered both those questions already. Yeah. Cutting in full-time employees to part-time or eliminating their positions. As it's not gonna make a massive difference in anybody's tax bill because it's not the driving force of the tax bill. That's the message I'll continue to try to get across here, that our budget is pretty tight, like not a lot of fluff in our budget. We watch our budget like a hawk. We have questions. We try to not spend stuff that we don't have to spend, but the money that we could cut from our budget possibly would have more of a negative impact on our community than it would save anybody in their tax bill.
All right, thank you. And that's all the written questions. I want to thank everybody for being patient and it took a long time to get to this. So I'll open up to the floor. Yes.
You've talked a little bit about the fact that we have this large portion of our tax bill that goes someplace else. So how would you look at that other portion of the bill to see what kind of arrangements that you could make to cut that down?
We can't.
There's no way we could move to a different school district.
No.
There's
Well, I can't say no. I mean, you could start a referendum to get us to maybe move to Richmond, but I think as everybody's heard, we love our school district. We don't, for me, that's a non-starter, leaving the school district personally. And again, like I mean, I see no instance where the town of Bowdoinham would ever approve leaving SAD 75 to say, join Richmond in a combined singular school.
So there's no way that we can cut that large budget and it's always gonna grow.
Until the state starts supplying us with actual accurate 55% funding, yes, that's continually what's going to happen. The EPS model that the state used for funding doesn't take into account teacher salary increases. It doesn't take into account geographic nature. It doesn't take into account how many buildings we have to maintain. It's purely based on student enrollment and property valuations. That's it. So a town that has the same property valuations but only has one elementary school, one middle school, and one high school is going to have the same EPS that we have, and we're spread out over like 800 square miles or whatever it is from Bowdoinham to Harpswell and everywhere in between. So I wish I could offer you a better answer for that. I mean, our schools are great. I don't feel our school budget, and again, we have very active members of the finance committee. One of our school board reps is the co-chair of the finance committee. The other one is the chair of the capital improvements committee. Both really smart guys who we are extremely lucky to have in our corner. I go to the finance committee meetings at the school board level. The school is not spending like drunken sailors. They're just providing our kids with an education in today's marketplace where competitive it's hard. And that is the driving factor. I wish I don't want to lie to you though, because I feel if I said, I don't see any way that the school budget doesn't continue to increase kind of that same number just to pay off our bond, because we have things. And again, we were just confronted with basically the $8 to $10 million capital improvements thing that kind of needs to happen. So there'll be a bond issue coming up for the district on that. So, I mean, you have buildings, you have to take care of them if our kids are going to go to school there. We all, espouse the virtues of our school district. I can't espouse the virtue of something and then say I want to leave it. right? Like that wouldn't make sense for me.
All right. I'll give Mark and Shelley an opportunity to chime in if they want.
I don't think leaving the school district would be good for Bowdoinham, nor would it be good for our children, because you gotta remember, yes, we have one of the best elementary schools in the state sitting not too far from here, but everybody in that building is part of MS 8075. So if we did what Richmond did and decided to leave the school district, some of those employees wouldn't be staying with us. And that's kind of scary when it comes to having a great partnership, probably one of the best I've ever seen, and I have 2 teachers in my family. When it comes to being able to communicate as a parent to teachers. So I don't think that is something that we would even want to look into, but like having people in our community on the boards that they're on, or chairs or co-chairs, we need to be voicing to those people so that way Bowdoinham has a voice when it comes to those committees within the school district. Not to mention, I know for listening to people in Richmond and having friends in Richmond, they're not happy. They're not happy. I don't want to see Bowdoinham become Richmond by any means, because when it comes to their school right now, parents are not happy. So I think we need to stay in our school district, keep our relationship with Bowdoinham community, keep Chris, Sarah, Jess all happily employed there as they take care of our children, and make sure that if we have concerns with school budgets and committees, that the people within our town that are on those school budgets and committees are being the voice of Bowdoinham.
Shelley, do you want to add anything?
I would add that we have just as many opportunities to be seated on the school board, to be seated in those rooms where those decisions are made. It's a matter of people filling those seats. I know that we've had a Bowdoinham resident on the school board for a very long time, may not be there forever. I'm saying it's time to get more of those seats filled. There are empty seats that are available on committees that are directly involved in the decisions you're talking about. I agree with Mark that, I mean, we can dream about the grass being greener somewhere else, but the reality is we have a great backyard, and maybe we should go out and mow the lawn once in a while. Which is why I'm here, to get involved. I agree with you that we need to take a closer look at everything and see what can we do? How can we change that big price ticket? I agree. I work in education, and I'm like, why is everything so expensive? It kills me. So yeah, I'm all about it, digging in deeper and finding out more and asking the hard questions. I think we all need to be asking some questions about the things that go on, and do as much as we can to change things at the local level, because it does eventually matter at the regional level, at the state level, at the national level, even hopefully.
Thank you.
I would like to point out that just like our town meeting here in Bowdoinham, at the school board meeting, the meeting before the warrant is approved, a meeting is held just like our town meeting where anybody can go, and it is an open town meeting, and anybody can make a request to lower a line item. If you want to go to this budget meeting and you want to lower the athletics budget by $300,000, and you make the motion and you have enough people to vote on your behalf, you can reduce, you have the power to do it.
Yep.
It is representative, it is not representative, it is participatory. So like anybody, and I'm not picking on you, anyone individually, but anybody listening that thinks that their view of, of wanting to reduce the school budget or employees at the town meeting, I encourage participation regardless of the side of participation. I want people to participate. I want people to know what is possible to be done. And any individual can make a motion at that school board meeting to reduce any line item. And if it's seconded and voted on and approved, you then personally just set the school's line item for that budget line item for that year. So if you feel that if anyone feels that it's the right thing to do, I encourage you to go to that meeting and make motions and see what happens. Like, that's the only truly way you could directly affect that budget. So.
Well, I just want to clarify, I didn't mean to insinuate there was anything the matter with the Bowdoinham school, because I understand that it's a perfectly beautiful school. But there's been talk amongst you about this other line item and like, what can we do about it? That's all, that's what I was.
It's just so big, it's hard. That's the problem. The volume of that line item overtakes everything else.
I hope it's not appropriate for me to chime in on this, but even before the district-wide meeting, the finance committee and all the school board meetings are open to the public, and I know people on the school board are always wishing more people would show up in person. So that is a great way to really affect the cost, because I feel that by the time it gets to that last meeting, it's very difficult to lower those changes, to lower those budget items. So getting involved early is welcomed and it will be effective. Yes.
I would like to make a comment and then ask a question. Two questions. What is HOA? I apologize for being so.
Be happy you don't know.
I think there's only one in Bowdoinham.
Do we have one?
Yeah.
I really don't know.
So an HOA is a housing association. So you have a community of so many houses and the same like a select board that represents everybody in that for how money is spent for amenities within that
Yes,
association.
I understand now. I just didn't know the answer.
I'm glad we don't have it.
No chickens,
But
no signs.
I heard a comment from one of you about seniors versus children. And I'd just like to say that perhaps I fit the bill of being a senior, but I very much support children's education. They are our future, and without them, we don't have homes.
Still had.
And we don't have jobs, and we don't have everything, so.
No,
I'm very supportive of the children and the schools here. And it's not just Bowdoinham School. It's community. I remember when people helped build that school. They put labor into it for free.
one paid carpenter.
Yes. And we are a community that continues to do that kind of thing. Maybe we don't have quite the background, but we have a lot of people who are coming in routinely and helping on various boards, the library, this, that. We've had very contentious time with the Public Works Department. I think we are run beautifully by the Public Works Department right now. I think that's come full circle in attitudes and workmen, and I commend them. And I commend the staff in the that we have now. They help one another. The town clerk is out there helping register your car. Well, she still has a bunch of work to do to get ready for our town. So don't sell the school short. That's what I'm begging you, in order to take care of the seniors. Take care of the seniors, help them, but don't shortchange the kids. And the other thing I'd like to ask is, since we often have times when a person runs for selectman and then decides he's going to run for the state. I would like to know from each of you what your political affiliation is. And I don't think that that's untoward to ask.
I will respectfully disagree with you. Select board is an apolitical position. We do not run against each other as different parties or different affiliations. We run for a seat. any decisions that we make, by definition, are not supposed to include any political bias. And former select chair, Mr. Engler, sitting there right behind you, taught me long ago in one of these very same instances that I don't feel it is appropriate. And I will personally discuss my political beliefs with you on the side as an individual, as a community member, happily. But as a select board member position, I do not feel it's appropriate. And yeah, so I'm going to choose not to.
Since, I don't know if you don't mind me just jumping in, since we're not in a meeting and since I'm not wearing that hat, I'm here before you as a citizen who is looking to be considered on a non-politically affiliated position. It's basically, business, but I am a registered Democrat. I'm very candid about the fact that I work at a school and I'm a registered Democrat.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mark, did you?
I feel the same way as Alan. I mean, I've done extensive. It's not a political position. It is a voice for everybody in the town, no matter what their political affiliation is. I've been all over this world. I've been in more country maybe than everybody in this room combined. I love people and I like being a voice for those people and helping those people. I did it for 15 and a half years. From handing candy and MRE pieces out to people in Iraq to building and painting schools in the South Philippines. I mean, we're a community, and the reason why I want to be part of this select board is to help people and be a voice for those people. So it's not a political position to me. It's a be a voice of the town position. What do you want? Because that's how I'm supposed to enact on the select board, is what you want, not what I want.
Once you go to like Brunswick and you have a city council and you have wards or districts and you're running against people to represent, that's the difference, because we are not representative of you. This is a participatory form of government. We are not representatives of the citizenship. We are here to oversee the operations of the town and make sure that the town is following and the expenditure budget that the citizenship approved. Whereas once you go to a city manager, town council form of government, where you have areas that you're running to represent, that's when it becomes a political position and you should identify, because then you are running to represent other people's ideals and beliefs. We're not supposed to do that.
Tessa, did you?
One of the elements of our town that's kind of spread throughout all of the questions is just our general culture of Bowdoinham. Do you feel as though the town budget, town management, and the select board adequately account for supporting and advocating for promotion of the culture of Bowdoinham? The volunteerism, the small community organizations, how is that represented in our town budget and in our town management?
Do you mind if I jump on that real quick?
I will say this to start with.
Hi, when I came to this town, I needed to know how things got done, what things were going on, what kind of community activities were going on. The place I found all kinds of information was our town office, was directly from people who I was surprised to find out were actually also town clerks, town managers. In all the towns that I've ever worked with, this has been one of the most engaged public works people in their community. At that engagement level is something that is exceeded any other community I've ever been in. So whenever I need to find out what's up, I just come down to the town hall, find out, what's going on. I look at all the wonderful postings everywhere. There's also a lot of direct engagement between the Bowdoinhammer and the board and the town clerks and town management. It happens at a speed that surprises and amazes me still, and that's how I found out about all of this to begin with, by accident, walking into the town hall, talking to the town officers, the clerks and the managers and things like that. Just word on the street. So I would definitely say they're engaged and involved in the community, because that's how I got involved.
Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am. Like, I believe we have a very unique culture here in Bowdoinham. We are a bedroom community of people that jump on 95 and go to their work, and then they drive to their home, and they may never drive around the rest of town, right? So there's a large section of our community that's that. We have a great over east section of farming land along the river. We have tons of roads that run north to south and nothing east to west in between. We have showing the lack of restrictions that we operate with as far as freedoms of the land use ordinances. We have giant $1 million homes next to mobile home for the rusty trucks in their driveway. And the best thing about my community is that I was taught at a very young age, the person in the $1 million home is no different than the person in the mobile home. They're your neighbor. Live and let live. If that's how that person chooses to live, let them live that way. Not everybody has to be best friends, but people just let people be in this town. And we have a very active community. Our community events, which makes us so much different than a lot of the other towns around us, they are so well attended and so diverse from age groups and new folks in town and families that have lived here forever. And to me, that is, again, as I said, I love this town. I love everything about it. I am a champion of this town, its culture, the people that live here across the board. And I think we can only get better.
Thank you.
I think we have an amazing community. I personally participated in the trunk or treat last weekend, and we had more people in our trunk or treat than Richmond this year. It was amazing. I called the town hall to get information for something, or I email the town hall, and it's less than a 24-hour return. To set up an event in any of our town buildings, it's easy. It's, there might be costs with some things, but I mean, that's because we're holding an event, but it's very easy. I think our town is different from many other towns that we have the amount of, what's a good word? The amount of reaction time to get something done in our town, I think, is smaller than when it comes to other towns. Or we're more of a tight knit community than I expected when moving here in 2021. I mean, putting out what I'm doing next Saturday in the Bowdoinham, I've had a huge response, and it's amazing. I think the people of this town look out for one another, and I mean, just like Alan said, it doesn't matter the cost of your home, the cost of your neighbor's home. It matters about the person within you, because that's what's going to make this town strive for hundreds of years down the road from today's date, is how we as people make this town and instill our children to keep this town the way we want it right now.
I apologize for going over on time. If anybody has anyone else to be here and needs to sneak out, I won't judge you. But I'm happy to stay here and keep people here as long as we have questions, because this has been a great discussion. Yeah. Stay here.
Thanks for being here. What have you shared your thoughts on the waterfront redevelopment and walkable village plans? Had a chance to check this out.
We start with Marc on this.
I haven't looked too much into the waterfront. I mean, I've walked it. I'm an avid walker, at least until the white stuff starts falling from the sky. I know I like what I'm seeing thus far. I wish the waterfront was a little bit more able to be used for other activities other than the kayaks down at that end. I would like to see something for our children or anybody to fish off of. I know fishing on the bank is very tough right now because the way the bank's structured, it can get very dangerous. I know this for a fact. Um, but I think our waterfront that we have, if used correctly, that is an amazing portion of our town. I mean, I can trust my 12-year-old son to put a kayak supervised and not have them in Merry Meeting Bay in 20 seconds. So I mean, I feel that our waterfront is a great place for all of us to utilize. And I have not looked into too much of the future projects of it. I know there's some banking stuff happening to ease the banks. And some more trails and stuff like that, which I'm excited to see because I like being outside as much as possible.
Shelley?
I get to see it every morning. I'm very excited about it. I live with my cousin who's been here for at least 30 years. She bought the house that I'm currently living in back when it was a delightful view of the public works. And it is now absolutely getting more beautiful every day. I'm very excited about it. I kayak myself. I've not stuck oar down here yet. And I'm kind of like waiting for this to be done so that I can finally get out there. I do share concerns that it be more of a multi-use, not just boating. Very excited to hear somebody bring up fishing because boy, do I love fishing. And now that our rivers are becoming able to be fished, this is very exciting. As somebody comes from Western Maine, I'm sure you can imagine I'm from Milltown, and seeing rivers that couldn't be fished going to become rivers that can be fished, seeing stretches that you wouldn't have your kids swim in become places where people can bring their entire family and engage in water sports. I think it's very exciting. I think it's being done carefully and wisely. It's an ongoing process, but I'm super thrilled that it's not getting rushed. It's not any more invasive to the natural way of things in that area than it needs to be. So far, everything I've been seeing has been very positive. I'm crossing my fingers that they use that building that I think it was I've been kind of quietly calling it the captain's house, that little building down there. I really hope that they find a use for it and don't just tear it down because it's kind of a part of this town. It's something you see going over the bridge, and I would just really like to see that maybe be part of a way to bring more people in town, possibly as a micro-tourism thing like you had mentioned, Mark. Just starting to, get people here spending money at the tavern, spending money at the store, come see this beautiful, beautiful resource that we have. We're very excited about it.
Ellen?
Well, yeah, I am super stoked. I spent my formidable years hanging out at what is now Maley Waterfront Park when it was affectionately known as Freaky Beach. And the Public Works sand pile for the town was in the parking lot and was mine and most of a lot of other kids of my ilks. Basically, our town playground was playing in the Public Works sand pile as a child. So I also applied and was hired as a rec director as a second job in 2018, maybe 17. Forgive me if I'm incorrect. Basically, the primary purpose was I had 3 kids, youthful kids that were playing sports, but also because of that overall concept plan right there for the redevelopment of what was then the old Public Works. And once the new Public Works was built, that was the linchpin for the waterfront plan to go into effect. But we then needed a final approval. I actually hosted several events in my own living room where people came to my house, and I had that plan up on a digital 75-inch screen, zooming in and asking questions. So I am super stoked to the plan. There are phases for more playground activities, maybe active sport activities, and also like larger concert possibilities and things like that, venue possibilities in the area moving forward. But it has been about the waterfront park. It has been done smartly through phases. And I know everyone's going to say, what about our tax dollars? Every dollar spent on that has been TIF money or grant money. We have not budgeted any expense at this point to anything that's been done at the waterfront redevelopment. TIF money is tax money from CMP lines and the oil pipeline that is then put into a program where we get way more money than we would from their straight property tax value, but then we have to use it for only projects, things that the state says that we can use it for. But it nets us much more operating revenue than it would if we just collected their flat tax dollars on property. So I love the waterfront plan and where it's going.
There were also information resources at Bowdoinham Days you guys may or may not have seen, where they were showing all the different ways that there could be a pavilion for multi-use space there. And there was an opportunity for the community to vote, prioritize. So it's very much a situation, it's an ongoing community conversation.
Thank you. Yes.
So related to the park, I just wanna put out there that I think it would be great. I do know that the plantings were very not smart, like they were not installed the way they needed to be, and now it's volunteer work that is moving them out of areas so that Public Works can actually mow and not have to do like crazy configuration. So it's not completely like organized in a way, but then the basic thing that Hank and I have always thought, like maintenance is a huge thing, and it doesn't seem to be getting talked about. That it was volunteer work that had to like straighten out those plantings. And the bigger you make it, the more maintenance will be required. I know Public Works is already overcommitted. So like, how would you look at that?
Yeah, I mean, with anything is going to have maintenance costs associated with it, whether those things are done voluntarily or whether at some point we need to add a staff person for Jason and it becomes recreation and parks to alleviate that from Public Works. I mean, it would be remiss to say that there's not going to be maintenance needed in the future. And again, we don't have an endowment for this or anything like that. So we do recognize that there are going to be costs associated with maintenance. And I think that's why we're going real slow and didn't just build out with basketball courts and things like that, or bocce balls or horseshoe pits or whatever. I mean, we had all sorts of things that people wanted and asked for and pavilion and all that sort of stuff. So I think I think that's the reasoning behind that is to try to get a hold on what maintenance costs are going to be and how much and how we're going to undertake those. I mean, the plantings, I had the plantings done improperly. I mean, I know specific native plants were chosen and stuff like that. I know that there was some issues with like the locations and how they were done. Again, most of the work done at the baseball fields is all done by volunteers, taking care of the recreation fields up there, helping Jason and stuff like that. So I would think that there's going to be some aspect of it that's volunteerism and some aspect of it that will end up being a budgeted item.
I do think that there are 5 things there though, that you can't, like if the trees die, it's too late kind of thing. So it's more like having a vision towards maintenance rather than like, oh, something went wrong towards maintenance. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm a much fan of being proactive instead of reactive. Certainly, being reactive usually doesn't put you in a good position.
But in all fairness to whoever was involved in the original planting of things that then went south, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on the specifics of that in any way. I'm playing catch up, but I will say, as somebody who has planted many a thing that should have worked and totally didn't, that these things do happen. And I do think that your point is very well made, that we have to have a plan for what we don't plan for. That there are going to be floods, there are going to be disasters, there are going to be unforeseens, that we need to kind of have what are we going to do about that? It's not like the volunteer cemetery mowing club. We have to kind of have something that is between that and something that is expensive, to have something that's a collaboration between the community and the town, because I think the town will have a responsibility, but then so will the people that are using the area. it's gonna be as nice as they want it to be as well. If they're not invested in keeping it nice and volunteering to keep it nice as well as the town spending money on it, then it's gonna be like those parks you see in other towns that get trashed and nobody cares. I would love to see a meeting of the two instead of it being the town's problem or a volunteer's problem. I take your point very seriously that we should kind of get a plan for ongoing, not just for the big build.
Mark, do you want to answer the?
I mean, I think Public Works and Rec should probably come together. Look at what we have, be proactive, just as we do with, the cemeteries and everything. And see how much volunteer work can be done. I know, I think, there's a new storybook going in there by the library, which is great. Because those are always fun for everybody to walk and read stories and stuff like that. And I know everything from that going in was donated to the town at no cost to the town. But it's gonna need to be maintained, paint's gonna rust. But there was, our librarian already has a plan, so as long as we have a plan. And if people are willing to help and chip in and put a little bit of elbow grease, that's gonna reduce costs in the end, and then maybe it's, hey. Can somebody mow once a month or something like that? We don't have coverability between here and here or something like that, and see what we can get out of that. I will be willing to volunteer my time. I know I'm willing to volunteer a 12-year-old's time. But I mean, that's what a little community is all about. It's us helping each other before, we get into the costs. Because every time somebody mentions costs, ears start to perk up and eyebrows raise right now. So what can we do as people of Bowdoinham to not improve costs where costs aren't needed right now?
Yeah.
We just purchased a Cadillac of landscaping rigs in combination purchase with Public Works and the rec department in the Ventrac that was purchased. We're talking almost about $100,000 piece of equipment with several attachments that can do just about everything, can drive on sides of hills and like this and like that. And it was a combined purchase. So I would hope that, that purchase wasn't, just to aerate the baseball fields and snow blow the sidewalks. It was it's meant to be used. So I would hope that would be used, be put to good use on the new waterfront as well.
A little bit of a two-parter. I should know the answer to the first one, but I don't have running on Ellen to. Who is in charge of choosing who we contract as animal control officer?
We don't, that's an appointed position, I believe is the correct terminology. Dave's nodding his head for me there. So there are positions that are appointed by the town manager every year. Those would include like the harbor master, the animal control officer,
cemetery sexton.
Yeah.
These are people that are paid stipends or were paid stipends, but now have to be paid hourly due to state law, but they're appointed and then the select board approves their appointment each year. And that's a fiscal year thing. I think we do that the first meeting in July. Those appointments are given to us by the town manager, given to the select board.
Do you feel that the taxpayers are getting our money's worth with the animal control officer? As I am aware, from speaking with employees of Midcoast Humane, that they have expressed to me personally.
Okay, so again, this is like a touchy situation
I
for
know.
me because
It's
they're an
it's a
active town
touchy
employee,
situation,
right?
yeah.
So for tonight's answer, I would say if you feel you're having issues or have noted, issues that have happened, I would present those directly to the town manager. Okay, and then if there's an issue, again, that gets into us dealing with, so like it would be inappropriate for me to comment on an employee's job performance in a public setting like this. So if you had instances that you wanted to bring forth to the town manager, I would encourage you to do so. And Nicole will be very willing to listen and take down any notes. And then if she feels she needs to come to us about something, then she would do that.
And take my question.
Sorry, I apologize. That wasn't a dodge.
So,
I just want to say thank you very much to Jared for pulling this meeting together. It's been very informative, and to all of you for stepping up and for putting yourselves forward. I know it's, you're really, you put yourself out there, and it can be a little scary. So thank you, and this has been incredible to hear from each of you. And whoever doesn't come in first or come in second on Tuesday, I hope you'll run again.
Thank you.
Or join the appeals board.
Lots of to do.
The finance committee, Dave.
Okay, I have to challenge you on one thing.
Okay,
As chair of the finance advisory committee,
okay.
there is no fluff in the town budget.
Did I say minuscule or very little?
I
Like,
said very little.
okay. I stand corrected. You're chair of the finance committee, folks. So,
And you still need committee members, right, sir?
Yes.
okay, well, there's definitely no shortages of ways to get involved in this community. There are plenty of groups out there, and I encourage everybody to find their niche. Yes.
Can I just say one more like quick thing, and it's not a question, so it can be quick, like, I would love it if, there's that Bowdoinham website email, and then there's the Bowdoinham, thank you so much. That sometimes the minutes are not, from the select boards, aren't put up in a timely fashion, like it can be, a month, or it can be a while. And sometimes it's hard to watch
so
the whole meeting.
select board minutes are always up for the next meeting. If you click on the agenda, because we have to review them at the next meeting. But no, they are. I'll show you. I'll show you on the website when we're done.
It's just that they're drafts and they haven't been approved by the select board until their next meeting.
Right.
Which is the reason for the delay.
Right, they don't post them on the town website till we approve them,
Yeah.
but what was actually said at the meeting before is up for us to approve that very night. So if you want to see what the minutes were from the last meeting, they're always on that meeting's agenda.
Or we can just bring our knitting and come to the select board meeting.
Yeah, please.
We're zoomed too. I mean,
There have been cats.
I'll show you where to find it.
oh, yeah.
I go look.
No, but the difference between the posted because they can't post them until we approve them. But they're done basically for 100% for correctness by that next board meeting. So, and they're on the documents in the consent calendar. I just want to show you where you can access them before they are approved and then posted on the town website, because I understand there can be a gap in that. But they're always available, you can always see them.
The communication of like things that are happening, like if there was some like efficient way to hear about things before it's.
You want to see an email go out to people that want to subscribe. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Like the
maybe
Bowdoinham
an
hammer.
additional version of like, this is what happened before them, like,
Right.
or a newsletter that you guys put out more regularly, something.
Okay.
that can be
Something to be a little more accessible than the agenda. That sounds interesting to me.
Okay.
Something.
Yeah.
And trust me, it was a battle for me to get all documents related with each and every meetings posted on the town's website before the meeting. Before that, she would just the agenda was just posted, and none of the documents that we were actually processing through would be available to the general public. So now you'll notice if you go and you click on the select board meeting, there's a giant list of PDFs, which are all the documents that we're actually going through at that meeting. Before I came to the board, none of that was posted. I am all about giving transparency and yeah, you should. How can anyone be expected to participate if they don't know what we're talking about?
Well, it is possible to put monthly highlights out there without getting into the sticky waters of parliamentary procedure of not posting something that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But yeah, I love that idea of like a monthly highlights showing up on the town page, like, what are we talking about this month? It's great.
Maybe if we all donate enough to the Bowdoinhammer.
How many cups of coffee?
That's a good point, because I don't do any FaceTime or any,
Social media.
social media, thank you. But I do read the Bowdoinham, and that's how I get my information a lot of times about what's happening in town.
There used to be a town paper, I think,
Mhm.
back in the day.
Yes, there was. And you can run again.
Hop out in, the water's lovely.
Any more questions? All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out here, thank everybody for staying.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you all.
And you know,
Yes.